That's my beautiful, beautiful daughter, Annie. As I had told you once before, I'd come home from 724, is the next road up from here, and I pulled out behind a road tractor. And I rounded the curve about where he is right now. I looked and I saw gray smoke flying off from his wheels. And on the left-hand side, I saw the school bus letting off my kids. My heart sank to my feet. I was certain that I would get up here and see my kids up underneath the wheels of this truck. It just scared me to no end.
The tractor trailer came around the corner too quick and flipped over on top of a Explorer and trapped the lady in there. I know when we got there, all we could see was her hand sticking out, but thank God she wasn't hurt. We did have a double fatality there about 3 years ago where a tractor trailer driver fell asleep behind the wheel and swerved over and hit a little truck head on, killed both of them. The most recent serious one we had, a tractor trailer guy came across the road again, also hit a Volvo head on, and it messed her up pretty good. It took us a while to get her cut out.
The trucking industry, time is money to them, and I certainly can appreciate that, had found that the Route 17 corridor from Delaplane to Paris Mountain on Route 50 cut about 4 to 14 miles off their trip, depending upon which direction they were going in.
The recommended connecting routes for trucks going from I-81 in the north to I-95 south of Warrenton are I-81 to I-66, or alternatively, Route 522 to I-66. 522 is a 4-lane divided highway built for the heavy truck traffic at Virginia's inland port. I-66 and I-81 are both modern interstate highways. However, to save a few miles and avoid a way station, high-speed interstate truckers chose a shortcut that funneled them through the Crooked Run Valley between Paris and Delaplane. Eventually, 3,500 tractor-trailers a day were turning onto a narrow, 2-lane corridor with a railroad crossing, farm vehicles, school buses, commuters, 47 driveways, and 13 road intersections.
This was a locust tree that my father cut down when I was about 4. And my grandfather and I came down here. It was before I was ever in school, and it was shortly after they did the road. Every mailbox that they would put up down here was getting knocked over, knocked over, knocked over. It's not at all uncommon to come down here and see pieces of the mirror, pieces of chrome, and pieces of various car parts all around here.
The number of intersections, the nature of the intersections is dramatically different. If we go from where 17 and 66 split, just south of Delaplane, and we drive the 8.2 miles to Paris, or we drive the 8.2 miles on 66 to Linden, how many exits, how many intersections are there on 17? Well, we all know now that there are 60. There are 47 driveways and 13 route intersections, okay? How many are there in the same distance between Marshall and Linden? 2. Markham and Linden.
Probably the most unique thing we have about this roadway is on any given day at any given time, you may be looking at a presidential limousine coming from Washington, D.C. with the president and his motorcade in it, to a hay wagon pulling 200 or 300 bales of hay behind it, to the average person that's going from Pennsylvania to Florida on vacation.
I contacted VDOT, Virginia Department of Transportation, Bob Moore, a resident engineer, and they did truck counts up there, and in fact their figures verified and actually conformed with what we had, in the fact that we've seen between a 30 to 33% increase in truck traffic over the last 6 months.
Percent of trucks were probably up around 20%, and you could find a day in there that might have been 30%.
Look at the trucks in the path here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of them. So there's plenty of them out here. What is that? 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
About 10, 15 years ago, they started doing what they call just-in-time shipping. And what that is that the production factories would order supplies to get to their locations just about the time they'd be running out of whatever they had at the small inventories that they would have in stock. And so basically the trucks became the warehouses for the corporations. I mean, I would say for the main part, most of the trucks are not unsafe. But what happens with these guys is some of them are fatigued, some of them are overburdened with trying to get from point A to point B at a faster rate of speed or a faster time frame, and they can't often, you know, they're just always behind. So you add that in with a narrow road, a single lane road, you're behind, and the guy that's in front of you is keeping you from getting to your place.
We've now created a vehicle that arguably is not suited to the kinds of roads like Route 17 that were designed 40 years ago. Some of these engines have 600 to 700 horsepower. The total length of the truck is now easily 65 feet long. In fact, you can be over 65 feet and run on the highway.
On small highways with a high rate of speed, no matter what a driver does, if a tractor pulls out in front of them, or if all of a sudden somebody sees something, especially in a heritage area or in a historic area, to where all of a sudden they go, oh, look at that house, or oh, there's a marker I want to go see, and they all of a sudden want to make a left, it's very difficult to slow that vehicle down. No matter what a driver does, he has 80,000 pounds behind him pushing him down the road. When
that road was designed, there wasn't a thought about double trailers, twin trailers, and that sort of thing. And probably the overweight vehicles that are illegal probably couldn't be foreseen to that degree at that time.
A lot of the trucks that were coming through here were overweight trucks. They knew where their scales were on Interstate 66 and on 81, and this was a way to avoid those scales.
After a series of accidents involving tractor-trailers, local residents mobilized to improve safety on Route 17. With the support of local officials, the group persuaded the Virginia Department of Transportation to lower the speed to 45. The group then traveled to Richmond to support a bill sponsored by State Senator Russ Potts to ban interstate truck traffic between Paris and Delaplane.
It was clear that 100 interested citizens, you know, washed and shaved and sitting quietly on one side of the room, and you got a half a dozen transportation lobbyists, and this is the Transportation Committee of the Senate, so the Senate's seen these half a dozen people, you know, hearing in, hearing out. They know them all by their first names. And the 100 citizens sitting on our side of the room have a tremendous impact.
One of my purposes in going down there was from Fauquier's standpoint and being the chief law enforcement officer here to explain what this roadway has done, the history of this roadway, and the fact of what is being proposed, this fair request to be made, and that I endorsed it and supported it from a public safety standpoint, and that's what me as an elected official, like them as elected officials, are charged with. There was one compromise to the bill, and that was for those truckers that were making local delivery. And I don't think anybody, even in the citizen group, was concerned about that. That was not what we were looking at. What we were looking at was the cross-country truck driver that was using this as a shortcut to avoid the weigh stations and the scales.
Now they've taken track trailers off of it. I don't believe we've had a wreck up there since then. No, I take it back. We've had one up there, and it was nothing major. A guy fell asleep in his car, ran off the road, but we haven't had any serious things up there since the truck's been banned.
Now it feels like I can actually take a breath, you know, and I know that I can make it to the railroad tracks safely without somebody running over top of me, whether it's a truck or whether it's a car.
Well, for me, I would prefer staying on a 4-lane. It's a lot easier running. You don't have to worry about so many things while you're driving, and I don't see the advantageousness of taking a side road except for maybe to sightsee.
What if we inconvenienced them between 4 and 14 miles? and we've put them back on the truck route that was built and designed for the trucks. I hope this ban, it's a sunset clause on it, I hope that it becomes permanent. I don't want to see the trucks go back.